Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Um, I want to kind of preface this meeting with we're going to try something new. I have not done this before. It may not be the slickest thing. I had we had a cancellation for our evening tonight, so I had to come up with something else. And so what I chose to do was go over the AMA on YouTube, pick out the snippets, the timestamps, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of just go to the timestamps and listen to the points of the time at the timestamp, and then kind of pause it and talk about it. And I've got a lot of them, and we can stop in between. You guys can cry uncle and say, "Hey, Greg, this isn't working. Let's just bail on this," or it may actually work. So, got to try something new, right? But before we do that, the agenda basically says, "Hey, let's talk about recent news." And I will say that because Dom talked about it, Philo, I think I can talk a little bit about it. The digital framework, which will lead us into the world of tokenization.
Yep.
Dom talked about in this AMA, and
Evaldus actually leaked quite a lot in this. Like they had to,
right. He sure did. Right. So it was pretty funny, right? But the cool thing is that it's being previewed by groups right now, and
actually,
it's pretty cool.
The X teams yesterday, Navin released it to the X teams, and so the X teams are in the moment already reviewing it, and so it's like not super secret source anymore. Yeah, Dave has also seen it already, and so
I've seen it too. I was just making sure that I got you to talk about it, so I didn't break the NDA.
It is pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say from what today's been quite a busy day for me, but from what I've read, it delivers more than I had expected. Yes. So it is pretty well thought out, and it's got some unique features that are not found elsewhere. No. So I'm pretty excited about that.
It will kind of transform IOTA into a multi-asset, multi-chain ledger, and this is the really exciting things, that we will not have only IOTA tokens living on the Tangle. We will also have all kind of other tokens possibly living directly on the Tangle and having the same shared security, having the same feeless nature, having mostly all features of IOTA tokens, but having programmable base layer and a programmable level 2 smart contract layer is a pretty cool thing, I think.
Oh yeah. I've been talking to Philo. Philo's been saying that I've seen some stuff I can't tell you anything about, but I'm so excited about it. And he's said that to me for a while. So this is finally it. And it was like when I saw it, it's like, oh, I can see why you were so excited. So, and that was talked about a little bit in the video. Another thing that will be talked about in the video, and but is pretty cool, is Eric Hopp has actually, and he's got his schema tool, and that's allows us to help us construct smart contracts with the WASM VM, and he was able to, over a weekend, make it work with TypeScript, and he's already merged it. And it's actually, I believe it's fully supported now, and it's on GitHub, and it's fully merged now. I believe and it's got its own branch, and it's ready to go. So what does that mean? Well, the programming language has been Rust and Go. Rust is typically known as hard, Go easier, but TypeScript is quite a bit easier, way more approachable. and I would view this as a competitive advantage over people trying to develop in other smart contracts in Solidity and other languages. So we now support TypeScript, Go, and Rust. And I think that will expand, but just what he did with that is setting the stage for adoption and bringing people into our ecosystem from external chains. So now we've got the ease of development is starting to happen, and then we'll also have all the great stuff with smart contracts and the feeless nature, parallel capabilities of spawning multiple chains that are all run simultaneously, multi-assets and multi-chain, all on the Tangle. So pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so I've said that. Anybody have any questions with regards to that? Curious? Anybody? All right.
Can we have more details? Can we say more details?
More details as far as
what do you think? More details on specifically kind of the not getting down to the nitty gritty, but just some of the.
Yeah, why don't you cough them up, Dave?
Okay. So, one of the cool things is that now the ledger is going to have to be able to run essentially like what Ethereum does, which is scripts at the end of transactions, except they're going to be kind of predefined scripts. So essentially what you're able to do is add programs that run at the end to accomplish things. So that expands greatly the amount of things that can be done so essentially all the nodes are going to run a set number of script things, which is pretty cool. It's going to expand the capabilities of what the IOTA ledger is able to do. And I think that piece in my mind just kind of was like, wow, that's gonna be huge. So that then makes a whole lot of other stuff with integration with smart contracts very, very capable. And so there's a lot of things that can drive from that. And I think there's going to be even more stuff as we dig into it and really see the capabilities of what that offers. And I think I could go a little further, but I'm not going to. So that's just the one piece that stuck out in my mind.
One thing that you can infer from this is that, and it was mentioned in the AMA, that there'll be multiple digital assets that'll be supported, right? Mm-hmm. We kind of knew that, but it also implies, and it's rather obvious when you think about it, that the wallet is going to have to support that as well. So Firefly will be able to support multiple asset classes, right? Multiple types of digital assets, which would mean things like ERC20 and that kind of thing. So for people that kind of follow this is pretty exciting stuff. Okay. I'm a little afraid of our next move, but maybe we should go ahead. As far as recent news, I don't think there's anything else. Does somebody else have any other takeaways or news that they have to discuss? They came from IOTA or about IOTA?
TypeScript is huge. That's all I got.
Yeah.
It's not trivial, right? For people that develop, TypeScript is. I'd say it's one of the most used out there. So
it just makes it far more accessible. I mean, it's very close to JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, TypeScript's just,
superset. Yeah. So it opens the door to all those web programmers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
that's the key right there. What you said right there.
Yeah. And there's a bit of this. I think it went a little bit under because kind of Eric just posted it in the smart contract channel. Oh, I just like added it. Like I just had 24 hours time. Kind of sat down and it all works. Fine, have fun with it. So it's kind of
In my view, it's it's absolutely huge.
Yes.
It's pretty it's amazing that an individual can actually pick up something he's never worked with before and figure out how it all works and then implement it and get it done in a weekend. It's like who can do that? That's pretty amazing. Eric Hopp can do that.
So if TypeScript is supported, can we infer that assembly script is also supported by nature?
Yes. Assembly script is. He posted it already in the morning. It's like assembly script is therefore also.
I think it's kind of the same. I think it's assembly script, which
that's awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the key is the assembly script is able to be compiled. I think that's the TypeScript is the non-compiled, and the assembly script is you're able to compile it, and then it compiles it into what's the Wasm VM is able to run. So that's the key. So you're able to do it in assembly script, compile it, and it just runs just like all the other languages for smart contracts, and similar result.
Okay.
Big smile on my face. That's awesome, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
Actually, quick question here. If I could.
Yeah.
So since they're all compiled to Wasm, that doesn't. I guess a worry that I had is, all these different languages. If you're spreading smart contracts in all these different languages, you might be exposing these smart contracts to new attack vectors, new exploits. But if it's all compiled to Wasm, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, you nailed it, right? Because the way that a Wasm is architected is kind of sandbox, right? And it only has a very constrained egress and entrance points, right? So it's pretty solid. You won't be running into the things that you're talking about, I don't believe.
Yeah,
so.
Awesome.
And I think what's also good is when they're testing it too, they can just write their test stuff against the end result, and they know as long as it covers all those. And you saw that's what Eric posted. He goes, I've run, I think his first cut was, it runs everything except for 3 use cases here and a couple there. So they've got the automated tests to test it all. And so then once he took the second pass, he got everything working. So I think that's from a security standpoint also quite important too.
I had a quick question from an adoption standpoint. Does this open up any new opportunities to explore other partnerships with semiconductor companies similar to the partnership with STM Electronics?
I would say it's not going to hurt. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. It's kind of like we have this tool set, right? And we have smart contracts, and how that would interact, the chipset would interact with those, are all going to be based upon the imagination of the chip manufacturer, the engineers, the hardware engineers, and software engineers, and how they think they would invoke that.
I think for the chip for the chip industry, of course, C language is an important stuff, and Rust. Yeah, so the good thing is that Rust is possible, and Rust compiled to Wasm then. But I don't know if TypeScript or assembly script is kind of widely used in this industry.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting though is, that Eric always pops into these meetings, so he'll be at another one. That would be a question to ask for Eric, because Eric, that dude knows how to code for chipsets like nobody else. He really knows that pretty well. So that would be a great question for him, actually. And you know what, we can take that down and get that to Eric too. So if you want to, you could hit me up with hit gman214 with a DM and send me your question, and I'll get it to Eric, and I'll see what he cooks up, and I'll put it in the America channel or the smart contracts. One of the two or both, so that you get it to it.
For sure. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
You bet. Okay, I'm a little worried about how this is going to work out, but I think, Dave, you want to
let's go.
Give it a go?
It's more than a go. I'm pretty sure. I'm now that I'm not recording, I feel a lot more comfortable.
Okay, so you guys, once again, I've went through and picked out about 13 different snippets of video. It could take a while longer. So if you guys want to just cry uncle and say, hey, this is taking too long, just let me know. it's not going to hurt my feelings. I just, I wanted you to come up with, have something for you guys to discuss. And I did in the Americas channel, I actually did put, like if you bail early or even if you just don't want to view the whole video, I did pick out 13 pieces, 13 points that you can just go to those, right? And those.
Can you guys see the video?
Yeah.
Okay, now there's the real proof.
Yeah. So all these.
Okay, so did you guys hear that?
Yes, we did. We did. Okay. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll try to. I've never done this before, so I'm going to just try to set this up.
So, Greg, if you could run by the timestamps, I have them, but it'd be just better for me if you ran by the timestamps and then, like what you're doing, explain why why we chose that timestamp.
So, you're pretty much, you don't need to move it now. So we're going to go to 741, but we're going to play from here to 741, and this is just Dom talking on frameworks and platforms to kind of set the stage. So let's give it a go.
All these markets are targeted with the IOTA smart contracts, and we have to provide the reason why we do these architectural decisions. So the white paper is currently, we hope in a few weeks maybe we'll finish. I'm optimistic, or maybe I'm pessimistic. It depends, but hopefully it will provide these.
Right, and I mean one thing that really helped me as well to better understand IOTA smart contracts is that it's a framework, right? It defines certain rules and gives you the right components to deploy smart contracts on top of IOTA. And there's some different iterations of it, right? And there can actually be instances of smart contract networks that then launch on top of IOTA that utilize this framework.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a good way to position it as a framework. It's not a framework like, programmer's framework. It's more the platform, I would say. It's a very broad, a very rich set of all kind of tools to build a multi-chain environments with multiple chains which can transact without any bridges, trustlessly over the tangle, over the layer one, IOTA layer one. So that's the idea. But of course, the protocol itself is open to many specific details which are use case specific.
Okay, you can stop there, Dave. That's cool.
Fee-wise.
We can do that there. He waxes for a long time then. So, basically we're just setting this up as a framework for other platform that can be used. Other platforms can tap into it. Anybody, Dave, or Philo or anybody else have any added color for that, or is that just self-evident? So
I think it speaks for itself, yeah. So it is just really I think for some people maybe a bit, if you know smart contracts like they work in Ethereum or Polygon or all the other networks out there, it's kind of always you have this one single chain, yeah. You have one Ethereum that is running in the world, and every Ethereum smart contract has to run on this single Ethereum chain, which brings all the problems that we know with congestion, with high transaction fees, with long waiting times, and really things you have to be worried that your transaction gets even picked up in time. And what IOTA makes possible is to have this hundreds, thousands of different Ethereum chains running in parallel, and so applications can even move their logic and their programmability and their execution to several chains if they need high throughput. And it's like this unlimited opportunities of just cloning and putting and spinning up another chain, spinning up another chain, spinning up another chain, and every chain has its own rules, can have its own incentives for validators, can have its own fee structure. And it's a super, super flexible thing that is kind of not possible with any other crypto in the moment that offers smart contracts.
Yeah. Cool. By the way, you guys, this is interactive, so if you want to engage, please do. Right? This is.
I think. Sorry, I think what it means to me is, as kind of someone that's done a lot of implementations of business systems, the problem sometimes is you have a concept of how it's going to work, and then you translate it into something, and when it's single threaded, you have kind of to schedule stuff. But with multi-chain, you have a lot more flexibility to say, you know what, I need a chain that does this, I need a chain that does this, and then it's kind of like those activity diagrams where you say, well, this does this up to here, and then it passes it off to the other chain that does this. And as Holger said there, it's like all the rules are different. So you can say, well, my chain that goes and handles this transactional stuff, I don't want to have any fees for that. But the ones that handle these other tasks, like going out and contacting an oracle, and that's maybe down the line. But then you can say, you know what, I incur some fees for that, so maybe I want to charge them for this, and that gives you a great power to design the smart contract solutions exactly as you need them, versus trying to fit it into one kind of situation. At least that's from my looking at it and working with it so far.
Cool. All right. Any input from the rest of the crew? Or if not, we'll kind of move on to the next one. We're going to go to 9:45. Dave. Okay. And
Dave, can you increase the volume on the YouTube feed? It's very quiet compared to the audio from us in the Discord.
Okay, let me see what I can do here. Interesting.
It was also interesting as Evaldus was very hard to hear a lot of times. So
okay, I've made that change. I'm not sure if that's gonna. Let me
give it a go.
Let me look at my audio settings here. Put volume. Okay. Hopefully I don't blast everyone now.
Okay.
Okay, so you said
9:45. 45.
Okay. Let's do it right there.
Is people who want to build DeFi.
Okay, first of all, is that volume better?
No, not at all.
yeah, it almost seems like a quieter.
For me, the volume is actually pretty good. I don't know if this is don't know why, but for me there's no difference between Discord volume and YouTube volume. I hear.
So
yeah, maybe
bumped up all the volumes that let me try one more thing here. And I don't know if this is going to make a difference, but let me see if I can get my volume mixer here and see if my Discord can ramp that up a bit. Okay. All right, guys, this is what we got, I think.
Okay.
Applications on top of this, which is obviously possible, but you have to take into account that this specific release is very much aimed towards the core of IOTA smart contracts and not so much towards building out a network with dynamic validators, etc. So it's very much permissioned right now. We're looking into researching this, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that will be one of the major points also of this discussion, because I think what we have right now is this beta release where you can start building your dApp and some of those other key questions, right? Especially how to do this in a permissionless way, is something that we've been working on for quite some time and will probably share in the near future, right?
Yeah. The permission, it must be explained a little bit. I always, it's important topic. I mean, it's the validation set of the one chain is permissioned, but it doesn't. It's permissioned in a sense that you have to come together to make it, to validate. But otherwise, it's not permission. You can build whoever wants to deploy chains, they can deploy chains. Whoever wants to request chains, send transactions to chains to a level one to exchange between chains, they're free to do that, and so on. And when we're talking about the permissionless, of course, we're talking about the permissionless validation, when somebody can come with its node and start validating chains.
Right.
So this is also one option.
Yeah.
We can stop it there.
Exactly.
Stop it there. Yeah. Okay. So what they're talking about there is, the talk of the town, right, is for most of the developers that are showing up initially, or a lot of the community, It's like, hey, I want to build DApp stuff. I want to build DeFi, actually. The current state of the brand new release, it isn't well suited to that yet. And there's a couple different reasons. One of them are they spoke about it. We're permissioned now, and we want to be permissionless. So they are working on that in the next release. The cool thing is, in this video, it's not a matter of them figuring out. They know how to do it. They just have to code it. So that's the cool aspect of that. Really, DEXs and DeFi apps, they need what are known as dynamic validators. So when you're looking for validators, you want to be able to just be able to get one dynamically assigned, and not picking them from assigned groups. I think that's what the messaging is there. Would you concur there, Philo?
Yeah, I mean the basic difference. I think the easiest way to understand it at the moment, kind of, if you look at Ethereum, in Ethereum there is no entity that decides who is a validator. Yeah. In Ethereum, if you spin up an Ethereum node, and you can then run all Ethereum smart contracts that run on the chain, and you are part of the validation process. If you go to Binance Smart Chain, it's already different. Yeah, at Binance Smart Chain, you have a set of validators that the same thing is in Ethereum. You have a set of validators you have to trust. In Ethereum, there is no entity that decides who is a validator. In IOTA smart contracts, in the moment, there is an entity. This is the chain owner, or the deployer of the chain, that will allow validators to join this network. And so this is in the moment, somebody has to allow you to be a validator on your chain. And of course, this is a great way for some applications, but other applications, you want to have a more decentralized, more permissionless setting. And this is what is in the moment kind of all worked on in the background. The information and the specifications for this stuff will come when it's ready. And so that's not something that is not possible, but it's just not yet totally finished, and so not yet released. Yeah, but of course we all know that this is an important feature for especially decentralized Web3 and stuff like this. You want a permissionless way of getting validators in and out of a chain, and this will come, but it's just not yet finalized.
Yeah. I just would finish the statement off with what you said there is, right now, the chain maker is the one who basically allows and who has access to that chain, right, to be a validator. And that's not a negative depending upon your business case. And in fact, sometimes that's a feature. But you always have to have the right tool for the job. So right now, based upon the status quo of the smart contracts for building, DEXs and DeFi, it's not ready for that. But it's definitely ready for other business cases. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to this. Okay, this is just a little bit of fun, you guys. Listen quick. It'll be 12:12 to 13, Dave. So.
No, I remember people always complained if I did best, because it's kind of like a weird algorithm how they do that. Let's do top right.
What is best?
That was kind of a mistake. Let's go through it. Fuck it. Hi Dom. It's been quite some time since bigger than Congress. I think that was the infamous statement. Are there any news or details which can be provided on this topic? There's no ETAs, right? There's obviously a lot of stuff that we've been working on behind the scenes, including the smart contracts release, right? I think that was a really big one. that is going to open many doors for IOTA and for the community. And other than that, I think some of these statements really become more of a meme than reality.
Okay, you can stop it there, Dave. Okay, so there was a little fun there, but Dom has gotten really good at just bypassing that question. So we scooted right through that, the better than Coinbase question. So I don't know if anybody also saw during this week what Dan's answer to that on the Mike the Investor program, but kind of more of the same. So thought that was pretty funny. Hey, before I go on, you guys, is this working okay for you? And I'm asking people other than Dave and Philo. Does this work okay for you? Is it of interest to you guys, or do you want us to move on to something different? Anybody?
No, yeah, it's good.
Okay, cool.
I'm good.
All right, cool.
I also got some FUD. Well, you'll see it later. Never mind. No, in the comment stream. There was a guy. You'll see what I'm talking about if you look at the comments stream. My answer to him. But anyway, keep going.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, where are we at, Greg?
We're going to 17:15. Oh no, actually 1600. 16 minutes to 17:15.
Okay. All right, there we go.
Okay.
Many traditional companies realize now that hey, we can actually use some of these exciting components to drive more engagement for our products, to incentivize our community, our loyal customers with NFTs, with digital tokens, with some kind of reward schemes. And because previously we were kind of stuck in this innovation lab within those big companies, and there was always some uncertainty whether a project gets canceled or gets deprioritized. And I think now with the introduction of native tokenization on the base layer, including NFTs, and obviously smart contracts, we can really drive corporate adoption in a new way. That was very exciting. Yeah.
You can stop it there. Well, yeah, you can probably stop it there. So the takeaway here, I think, is that what we caught is maybe an insight into the fact that corporations, the larger accounts that they really aren't talking about, are looking for ways to reward their employees, and they've been in discussions with people like that. I'm a big advocate of this, and it'll be, over time, it'll become, you guys will understand why, but the idea of recognizing employees and rewarding employees, and this kind of is very similar to what Antonio's doing within Discord, leveraging badges. I would say, and this is Greg Martin's spin, that badges and reputation are going to be a huge thing as we work our way in the metaverse, right? So they'll be more important to reflect what you've done in a different realm or world. And so this will be kind of cool there. So that's something, an insight that I think I wanted to provide. Okay, let's go ahead on to.
Can I make one comment on that?
Yeah.
I think what I take away from that too is that I think previously I was kind of been struggling in that the protocol's been there, but there haven't been a lot of tools to actually build with. And that's been the struggle from a corporate point of view, because they have to do a lot of that heavy lifting at the very low level of the protocol. Well, now with smart contracts and with the ability to use all these kind of unique, maybe unique's not the right word, but NFTs and some of the other building blocks that make solutions easier to design, it's like another level up, and the solutions are easier and easier to construct. Still complex, but that's part of I think what is really going to start driving the solutions, and even more and more as actually we get involved and provide even that other middle layer, the more businessy type solutions that can be cloned or used as to integrate together to form more complex solutions.
Makes sense to me.
you can also get a lot more people excited now about stuff, right? Because before, okay, you have a distributed database and stuff, right? Yeah, that's, you got to be kind of a nerd to be excited about it, yeah. But once we have employee rewards or customer-facing capabilities, or that you can tokenize any assets and stuff, right now you have a much broader set of people that can actually also comprehend and grasp the value of this, right? Before it has been very much a select few that can see the beauty of it.
Yeah, good points. Good points. Somebody else was chiming in?
I was gonna say, it kind of feels like cloud all over again for circa 10 years ago. Super early and then super foundational, right? Or to use the building block analogy, it's almost like the base layer of Legos, right? There's all these Lego blocks, but now you have something that you can interact with feelessly. And I think there's a whole world of new possibilities where the transaction cost is zero to employee benefits, like you talked about, or to tickets to a stadium or to events now that are feasible. When you start talking about a couple 100,000 or a couple million tickets, and like how many airline tickets, how many event tickets, I think this is a catalyst for a much bigger
and getting back to what Alex was saying, we've had technology, and it was always having to be refined, and but having the technology and it's also like a platform is not the most exciting thing to talk about unless you're a geek, and you run platforms, right? But when you a picture paints 1,000 words. Now what we have is we actually have things that people can relate to, and with the NFT revolution that's upon us, right? It's all about what people can feel and see and create, and now we have that ability, and we can actually have it connect to our platform, and people can actually start seeing. They can start realizing the benefits we've been talking about and espousing that were coming for so long. But now you can kind of tie it together, and I think we're kind of set up really well for that for the future.
Yeah. Regarding the cloud, it's also, I think, a good point, because I remember at my my last days at SAP and then at Microsoft, the early days of Azure and so on. How many debates did we have about this miraculous thing, the cloud, right? And who would move to the cloud, and how would we make whatever redundancy and this and that? How would we get the latency to an acceptable level and all of this crap, right?
Who would ever trust a cloud with my data, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah. But what it started as, right, was virtual machines. It started as something basic. And I don't know if I don't want to take away from like the agenda or the plan here, but Dom makes a point in this video about like the layer zero conversation.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
If you guys are getting to that, then I totally will.
I might have blown past that because I was trying to pick my spots because there were a lot of places snippets. I have 13, and that was going to be the 14th. So I think I might have passed that by, but again, I was debating it. I think I just yanked it. So anyhow,
if I can expand upon it, I think
sure,
there's so much wisdom to that. If you think about what happened with Android and what's happening with Kubernetes, if you're in the enterprise IT space, where you're using open source as an accelerant and a catalyst to create a whole new market opportunity on top of. And so, Dom's point of not being competitive against Solana, against these other protocols, because they're particular to a vertical or they're particular to a particular market. There is a lot of opportunity at being a enabling foundational layer that's one industry, the same way that there's e-commerce now for every industry, not just retail.
In a way, we can be considered plumbing for the metaverse. Basically everything. Smart contracts, and also the future of DAOs. We could be considered, if we do our job right, layer zero for that, in my mind.
I think the fact that it's feeless is what makes it layer zero. Like, point to any other example where they can hold that,
Yeah. Just like with Linux and the web stack, right?
Yeah.
On Windows for the cloud.
Yeah, my company that I built, we basically... we built servers. Our software was we basically put them on. We went to Linux just because of the royalty fees, and that forced us into Linux. I mean, it was dollars and cents.
And it's kind of funny that Alvarium's under LF Edge, which is under Linux Foundation then.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
All right, cool.
That's
you
not
bet.
funny,
No, I
that's
appreciate for the input.
That leads me, if I could interject, one quick question I had that I brought up in the smart contract discussion but didn't get a response to is if all this talk about IOTA being kind of layer 0, is there any sort of trustless interoperability with other chains that's kind of envisioned in the future? I know that's not possible at the moment, but I mean, if we're like, the base layer of the metaverse, are other blockchains going to be able to interact through the Tangle possibly in the future?
Did you want to take that one, Philo?
I think, trustless is a difficult word because something has to connect these two different networks. Yeah. So if you want to have a trustless bridge between Ethereum, original Ethereum, and IOTA, that's a difficult part. Somebody needs to build it. Of course, there are ideas how this could work, but it's maybe a bit too early to say, yeah, that's definitely gonna come. I mean, what you have in the moment is this wrapping thing. If you think about a layer 0 IOTA or a Tangle being a layer 0, you could think about, okay, this other ecosystems might one day come to the idea to just port over and use the Tangle as a foundational layer for their things. And then Ethereum, the whole Ethereum ecosystem could be just another ISCP chain anchored on the Tangle. But this is still future, and I mean, it would be cool to convince the whole ETH ecosystem to say, okay, guys, we'll change a bit of code and we'll just anchor everything on IOTA. So I don't want to create any hopes that this is gonna happen in the next couple of months. Yeah.
No, but it is under discussion. It's a known. It's well understood within the IF. I know that. I don't work for the IF, but I'm run the X teams for the ISCP, and I've seen this, and I've talked with people, and it's a place that people want to go to. How soon it would be there, and the techniques and how that would happen. I think there's.
Yeah, because I think also Evaldus.
Vision. I think also that you maybe Hans it. Yeah.
Yeah, Evaldus also speaks a bit about zero knowledge proofs and those things. Yeah, because it's always the thing. As long as these networks are not really truly cryptographically connected, you will need a way to prove that an asset exists on another chain and is not kind of moving on another chain while you think you're moving it on your own chain or on IOTA. I mean, with all the ISCP chains and EVM and WASM chains, this is beautifully possible because there's always a Tangle in between, and every action that whatever action on any ISCP chains happen is provable and verifiable on the base layer of the Tangle. But bringing other ecosystems to that point is still a way to go.
Yeah. So I think it's a guaranteed maybe is where we are right now. Okay.
I think I would
far off in the future idea.
Oh, is that you, Adam?
Yeah. Hey, I think I would see it more as a cost-effective costing that will happen eventually, right? I think what you will see eventually, those other chains would start to move on to the layer 1. I don't like the whole term layer 0, but layer 1, and they will start utilizing it more and more because they will benefit from the zero transactions, right? So what might happen is all these other blockchains that are ineffective or they are very expensive to run will start to more and more operate potentially on IOTA Tangle and leverage its fila structure to do the transactions and start doing less and less transactions on the original blockchains. And maybe they will potentially move the whole blockchain on Tango, right? But of course, that's really far ahead in the future, and probably once we have a codicide.
Definitely, and I think that requires that we solve the committee permission issue for SCP chains.
Absolutely,
exactly. There's still a lot of hoops that I think IF needs to get through, and the committee is one of them for sure, right? But I think that's what will naturally happen, right? I mean, I personally think IOTA has this chance of becoming this sort of TCP/IP, right? That's for the internet. I think that's what the IOTA can become, but we're still away from it. But I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we are. Well, just think, 1 week ago, we just released ISCP beta out, and we've got people that have never made coins before figuring out how to hook up MetaMask and making coins, right? So pretty cool little progress that we've done just within a week. So I have full faith that we're going to get there, and the validator issue that was just mentioned, they will solve that. That's not even. It's just a matter of them getting to it. I know they're working on it.
It is not an issue. Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, it's just getting it done, right?
It's just not yet as far as so. And so, of course, we could have just waited until everything, also the permissionless thing. But then we would have to had such a big bomb to drop, and so maybe it's better to release. Also because we wanted to give the people the opportunity to start building now, and that's the thing. As soon as the permission setting was ready and available, and the EVM thing was working, and then was just a great time to release this now, because now everybody can play around. It's anyway on the testnet. You're not playing with real money yet, and so you don't need this permissionless and super trustless setting, and so this will follow in the next step.
Yeah, it just makes sense. You get people building now, right, and learning the tools and learning what tools are there, what aren't there. Just figuring your way out on how to make stuff work, and so when the stuff that the second round comes up, they'll just be able to just dive right into it and make use of it. So
definitely, I think this beta is awesome. It's great.
Adam touched on a cost issue, and I'm wondering, Greg, if we want to share what we learned from Tangle Accountant a day ago, I think, about the cost. You want to just keep that?
No, we can. I'm just trying to remember how.
So I'll summarize what I remember.
Yeah, please do, because it was just I couldn't remember the exact numbers. So
go ahead. You guys remember when Tangle Accountant ran the demonstration of how to do the staking and the DeFi and all that? He shared with us the other day that actually the cost that he incurred from that demo was around $300, I think.
Yeah, so to do a demo for us for the Americas, he actually burned $300.
I was like, and then he looked at the cost at that time, and it was like triple of what it was when he ran the demo. So from looking at what IOTA offers, it's going to be incredible, because even if you don't say, well, we're not going to, we need to charge something. What you end up charging is not tied to some fixed uncontrollable fee. It's something you can control, and you can make it in line with your cost. And I think that's going to be incredibly powerful, because right now the unreasonableness of running stuff on chain on Ethereum, or even with doing stuff off chain and then settling it, it's just a stopgap. With ISCP, you're going to say, oh, well, I incur this much charge, so I should set my charges reasonably at whatever, and that's going to be doable.
Yeah. So, the one thing go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I just wanted to say I think it's spot on. I mean, if you look at Ethereum, on Ethereum, all those contracts are running on all the nodes, right? And
on all the nodes.
Of course, that is a great security, but it's quite kind of inefficient, right? You don't need to run contracts on all the nodes, but there is no competition for the fee, really, right? The miners are dictating the fees for the for the fees on the chain, right? And what ISCP is really doing is creating a competition. It's creating a competition between chains to drive the fee down, and I think that's a really important aspect of it. I mean, you still have potentially fees on the chain because you need to cover the cost of running the hardware and running those smart contracts, but you most likely will also end up with chains that will provide, like a freemium model. I would envision that quite a bit as well, where they will provide a free sort of chain that you can deploy your smart contracts until it hits certain thresholds, and then you start paying some fees.
Yeah.
And then it's also competing with all the other chains that will try to lure you in, to give you a better fees, right? So no one is really doing that so well as ISCP. So I think that's what's really encouraging about that model.
Yeah.
Because your fees are not going to go up. Your fees are more likely going to go down as
competition
will
drive
scales.
that way.
Yeah, it's the economy of scale really that they are applying there, right?
So one of the things, getting back to what Dave was saying, business needs predictable costs, predictable models, so the way they can model their costs, right? Having your business your costs fluctuate by hundreds of dollars on is not for a long time business. It's not predictable. It can actually, the transaction fees. What we're seeing is it's not workable. So IOTA provides a solution for that, and it actually drives competition that will, competition typically drives up performance and drives down cost. I've shared this with my team, but smart contracts, I believe, are going to become like chips from the perspective of there will be so many smart contracts that are available on so many different chains that essentially do the same thing, the same operations, right? And so over time, this will commoditize. This will be turned smart contracts that are not specialized, that just do these common tasks, into commodities, which will drive down the price of everything, right? So if we see, and one thing I know through all my years of business is that capitalism always uses and seeks the lowest price, right? It doesn't care anything about anybody. It doesn't care about if you got a family, it doesn't care about anything. It will always seek the lowest price. It lives for the lowest price. So it will always go to the lowest price leader if everything's considered the same and produces the same result, right? Thus, the end game really that plays well for the IOTA zero fee structure.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I think what ISCP also allows, because the gas fees are so programmable, me as a chain operator, I might be actually luring other smart contract developers to my chain. And if they provide me certain data or provide me access to certain capital that goes to their smart contract, I might even provide them the free, gas without any fees. I provide them a free chain. So I think the model is so different to the other blockchains where they don't really tackle the fees, and IOTA is really tackling that from a different perspective. So I think the fees will become so irrelevant on ICP that it will change the space.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I think that in the case of like EBSI or something, the EU could probably run, as a public utility almost, smart contract nodes that would be feeless for whatever their use cases are with, like I know that in the EU video they talk about, diplomas and certain documents being transferred.
Sure.
Yeah, it's actually that's a really interesting thing. Like it's pretty much a public good, right? Providing a chain. I could see that, right? Why wouldn't the government provide for their citizens to a public chain that they can utilize potentially, right?
We like going to the RMV for 4 hours. It's a fun experience.
Okay, well, I'm really glad we got a conversation going. It's good not being the Greg and Philo show and Dave's show. So I appreciate you guys chiming in. It's a lot more fun that way. So we can go on. I got to find out where my next one was. I lost it. Give me a second.
We did 1600. We're at 1715, I think, which is the bank and cash metaphor.
Yeah, that's where we're going. Yeah, found it. Exactly.
Tokens and layer 2 tokens, which work similarly to ERC20 tokens. Could you give some examples on why a developer would choose one over the other?
Yeah, exactly. It's a difference between basically layer 1 and layer 2 tokens. The benefit of using a layer 1 token would be that you can transfer it across two different chains if you wish, or use it on just layer 1 alone, just transfer it to someone else. And with a layer 2 token, ERC20, it's basically locked inside the current chain you are in. So you can only use it there, and you can potentially bridge it over through a layer 1 token to another chain, but that involves some extra steps. So why would you use an ERC20 in this case? Because it's compatible with existing ecosystems. You can use it in the EVM. And in the future, we will be combining those two as well. So you can have a ERC20, which can also utilize native assets. And there will be some more specifications about this soon when we allow this and how we're going to do this.
Yeah, this is we often use some metaphor, which is the bank and cash metaphor. If compared the layer 1, layer 2, so layer 2 tokens like ERC20 or something which are all on the accounts of the some chain, it's a kind of bank, right? You don't own the token, but you have an IOU. So the bank, it does it on your behalf, whatever you say with this. But with a layer 1, you can wrap or take out from the bank the tokens like cash, and then you can do it with the cash to have in your pocket and spend whatever you want without any bank. So that's the.
I mean, there are, like we could also see them as sort of like first-class citizens of the protocol of the network, right? Because they're the most secure. They're the most feeless, right? Same as the IOTA token. And like if I look at the entire concept of what we introduced with IOTA smart contracts, I think this is really the key, because this is like exactly this feature is what developers in other ecosystems have requested. For example, one of the absurd things today is that you have Ethereum and then you have wrapped Ethereum, because the Ethereum token cannot be utilized within the dApp ecosystem in Ethereum. So you first need to wrap it, and only once it's wrapped, you can use it within a dApp. And there's obviously like huge fees involved in that. Like, for example, just recently I wanted to buy an NFT and it cost like $150. And then I just paid like $30 for wrapping fees. So that wasn't a very efficient process.
Yeah, you still have wrapping, but that would be like bridging from other blockchains probably, and won't be that relevant to transferring between different chains in ICP nodes per se. You would see basically the ERC20 on a specific node as a wrap of a native token.
Exactly.
You can make those. So,
So I really think that this is the secret sauce. Like, this is the key ingredient of the architecture that we have. We have layer 1 tokens, first-class citizens, very secure, very fungible. Everywhere where IOTA is listed, you can easily list those tokenized assets then as well. And then we have layer 2, where we have smart contracts with infinite possibilities. And just so everybody's aware, over the next few days or weeks, we are actually going to publish the updated specification for our tokenization framework. So Levente, Max, you Evaldus have also been really involved in that, have done a really tremendous job in updating the specifications for the IOTA mainnet. So I really encourage all of you to then check out the specs and learn what we're bringing, because this is really, really unique to IOTA, and nobody else really has it in this way.
Okay, Dave. Okay, a little bit to unpack there, right? There was actually, I think, quite a bit of information dropped there. What's interesting, did anybody, you've heard the term wrapping, right? That's we hear that tossed around quite a bit. Did anybody realize that there were wrapping fees and that they can be as much as $50, $35, all the way up to $100? Anybody know that?
No clue.
Yeah.
That's in addition to the gas fees, or that
you
is
bet.
gas fee?
No, it's a smart contract transaction. So you have to
right.
get that transaction through. You have to pay the gas.
So it's like airline fees, is what you're saying?
I don't know if I know what context I have.
You go to buy the process and there's a surprised X percent charge.
Okay, from that perspective, yeah.
Just that
okay, I'm with you. Okay.
It's luggage fees if you
there you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Or departure fees in a lot of foreign airports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pay to get me out of here.
Yeah, so all these other techniques that are being used to get to transport, when you think about it, of course there would be a wrapping fee, right? I mean, it's like duh when I heard it, but I had never considered it before. So yeah, there's another cha-ching, right? But it also, it's not to say that we won't charge like people that want to wrap stuff and put them on ICP or put them on the Tango. That's also a revenue opportunity for, our community, people that make smart contracts and such. So, but it just had never occurred to me, right? I'd heard about the gas fees. I heard, several other fees, but had not dawned on me there. So new to me. Anything else? The bank and cash example seemed to make sense to me. And anybody else have anything they want to add on that?
I just want to make sure I unpack that correctly. So essentially what they're saying is that for the IOTA tokens, there's not really going to be wrapping because the DApps and everything else will essentially understand them. But if there's other tokens outside of the IOTA ecosystem, such as ERC20 tokens, then they will need to be wrapped in order to be transacted.
Or BTC, for example.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
So that's what I took away. Is that a correct understanding from the people that know a little bit more about that?
Yes.
So that kind of ties back to the conversation that I had with Philo earlier on, the question that I had. So there has to be kind of like to have a bridge between like a BTC ecosystem and our ecosystem. You have to have almost an intermediary, and it can be a decentralized intermediary, but it has to be like a custodian that's transacting between the two different chains.
Yeah.
So that's just with outside ecosystem.
Yeah, that's the thing. You will need an entity that guarantees that the assets in BTC are locked in their vault, in their wrapping vault, and guarantee that the amount of wrapped assets that they provide in the IOTA in the IOTA layers are still holding or still locked in the other ecosystem. Otherwise, they tell you, okay, I locked here.
Rug pull
100 BTC, and here are 100 BTC equivalent IOTA wrapped BTC. But the thing is that you will need to have the guarantee that this 100 BTC are really existing in the ownership of this bridge on here. But this is the same thing between all wrapping and bridging things. And for this also, of course, because you are locking capital and you have things, there will still be a fee involved for wrapping those assets into the IOTA ecosystem. But that's also a cool business opportunity for builders to construct such things. Yeah, but it's not something that will come directly from the IF, because it's like out of scope of the work of the things that the IF is doing.
So just for giggles, just from my understanding, do custody providers do that, or is this an escrow type service that already exists out there? What would we term these people? Do these exist? Or they probably do exist, right? Or what are they called? Do we know?
So if I could just interject.
Sure.
I'm actually putting a DeFi Academy article together about different kinds of asset bridging and wrapping across different ecosystems. There are custodians that do it, but there are also decentralized kind of governing like DAOs that do that between different ecosystems. I know that Tezos has a wrapping protocol that they have a DAO that has a multi-signature wallet and a bunch of different, signatories that are part of that DAO that then like basically make sure the asset is being transferred correctly through the bridge.
Okay, cool.
I think that's something just I don't want to be missed, and I think between the blockchain and, for example, IOTA, like Bitcoin, you will probably always have the wrapping fees, right? But those wrapping fees on blockchain or Bitcoin will be, of course, much higher than what it will be on IOTA. But I think what's really important to understand is the whole native asset, right? You're actually spinning out your own token on IOTA without deploying any smart contract. No one else does that. And I think that's the biggest important thing out of this, this clip that you're showing. And I think it's really, really amazing, because if you're creating your own token on Ethereum, you always have to spin a new smart contract. You spin a smart contract which with ERC20 token in it, you pay fees for it. On IOTA, you don't have to do that. You spin your colored token. If you back that through, you back the finances behind it, you immediately have a token on the layer 1 network, and you don't even need to know how to write a smart contract. You don't even need to write smart contract. And I think that's quite big. Yeah. And I know it might be quite obvious to everyone, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating. But I think it's quite important to highlight that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing is this digital asset that you created on level 1, you can use and send and transport and transact to any other level 2 chain that is existing and running, because it's like a native asset to IOTA, and those native assets, they can live and they can move between level 1, level 2 chains feeless all the time. And that's a really interesting feature.
Yeah. So the colored token, the native asset, it can kind of be almost your base currency between your chains that you are running on ISCP. It's very interesting, I think, from that perspective. If you're actually creating your own token within your ISCP smart contracts and in each chain, you could potentially actually have a base currency as a colored token and do an exchange through that, which I think can open some really interesting use cases.
For sure. All right, Dever, let's go ahead. I want to hit 2515, please. And here we're going to talk about zero knowledge rollups.
Need to be made to the Tangle to support zero knowledge roll-up ISCP chains. Evaldus, you want to take it?
Yeah. To the Tangle, we don't need any changes. I mean, if looking at the Tangle, the consensus mechanism. To the ledger, UTXO ledger. So I mean, it depends on the purpose, actually. Do we need, and in what form we want to do it? But zero knowledge proofs essentially means validation of the zero knowledge, cryptographical validation of the layer 1. The implementation wise, it's a type of the UTXO, new type of UTXO, which is kind of locked or can be unlocked rather with some zero knowledge proofs. So it's not big architectural changes. It's a new UTXO type currently. How we are doing with the new specification is a kind of hard-coded script, extendable script. It's a module new module of the ledger, UTXO ledger. So it's not the big deal. I would say cryptographically is, of course, very complicated stuff. Architecturally, it's not. But the biggest problem with the zero knowledge proofs, actually, it's not on the layer 1, but it's actually on the virtual machine. And we don't know. We actually didn't analyze it yet very deeply. It's one of very interesting directions where we will be moving. But even now, it's possible to say that the performance penalties on the layer 1 on the virtual machine are huge, and that probably it will become a bottleneck in many aspects for the smart contracts. So yeah, the answer, not much dramatic changes, rather more development on layer 1, and pretty how to say, not easy, not trivial developments on the layer 2. That's the zero knowledge proofs.
Okay, and Dave, that's it. That's cool, Dave. Cool. All right, so yeah, zero knowledge rollups. So little involved there, but that's an important thing. You're going to hear people talk about rollups all the time. They're already talking about that, and so that's the latest insights on that. I don't know that I have a lot of value added to that.
The thing is, rollups at the moment, what are out there are mostly optimistic rollups. Yeah, so ZK or zero knowledge proof rollups are still also in research for Ethereum. I think there's 1 or 2 solutions out there that kind of, I think one is live, but it's kind of still just very early, and there's a lot of research going on. What you have here is all this optimistic rollup. So the optimistic rollups is always a thing that you have to, the proof that you have to deliver there. I think Evaldus also explains it later in the AMA bit, is that you are proving that somebody did something wrong. Yeah. So in optimism, you always have the chance to prove that something, that there's some fraud happening. But there you always have these long waiting times of 7 days until, of course, you will need to really wait until there's no possible rollback of the chain and things like this. And you are optimistically, it's kind of this, you are trusting that everybody is doing everything okay, but you give people time to raise their hand and say, hey, there was something wrong. And this is what optimistic rollups do. So they lock assets for a time frame and says, okay, if in this time frame nobody comes up with a proof that something was wrong, we believe now that everything is okay. But you still have to trust that somebody is actually checking what's going on and delivering this proof of fault. And zero knowledge proof work the other way around. They automatically prove that everything is correct, and you don't need to wait for somebody to come up and say, okay, I found somebody doing something wrong. The zero knowledge proofs directly give you the trust that everything is correct. But this is
and zero knowledge proofs will be faster, right?
Because you will not have to have this waiting time, because you will not need to wait and give people time to check all the transactions, check all the blocks, check all the validation if everything was okay. And this is why they will be faster. But Ethereum itself is still in research for making this really work. That's how far I understand it.
Okay, cool. That was actually quite good. You did well there.
If you look in this optimistic, the first time I was reading up on this, it was kind of really, really shocking to me, because if you do a transaction with an optimistic rollup system, it can still happen. You have to wait 7 days, in some rollups 10 days, until you can be sure that your transaction has really happened. And also, if you do a transaction now between whatever Ethereum and Polygon in this optimism thing, your assets will be locked until this fraud proof time is gone. So you cannot say, okay, I'm moving my Polygon to Ethereum and then I do something with it on Ethereum. You have to wait 7 days until you can do something with it on the other chain. So it's kind of really a strange because there are so many problems with congestion and with scalability that even such things that are from a neutral point of view make really absolutely no sense. Why should I wait 7 days for
and so many things can go wrong, right?
Well, I guess,
it's kind of really strange.
I guess the question is, what is the use case for the 7 day? Like, where does that make sense? Because I think the point that you're making, or the point made, is DeFi, where real-time trading matters and seconds have, actual financial, impacts, is maybe not the right place for that. But are there any Yeah. Just out of curiosity, places where like that does make sense?
Yes, what they use it mainly for if you do this wrapping. Yeah, so that's the thing. If you create this wrapped Ethereum on another chain, and because what you normally do then is that you do use this wrapped ETH inside the chain, and this stuff normally stays. Most of this wrapped ETH may stay forever in these chains or as long as they work, and so then you wrap something. You wait 7 days until the wrapping is really fault-proof, and then you can use it on the other chain. And then you profit from the lower transaction fees on Phantom or Polygon or whatever. And if you will ever want to move out of this chain system again and get back your original Ethereum, then you will use this optimistic rollup thing and unwrap it, and then you will have to wait again. But in between these two wrapping in the rollup, you can profit from the lower fees and maybe better scalability of the other blockchain systems. And so that's not something that you do every day. It's something that you do maybe a couple of months, or you start it and then you are, but for getting this done, you will have this waiting time.
So the whole idea of the rollups, right, are trying to reduce your transaction costs, right?
By moving things to another.
Right. So you're trying to save costs, and so what you have to balance, right, is the fees that you're going to save versus being down for 7 days. I mean, having access to your money for 7 days, right? That's what your balancing act, right? Is.
Yeah. Essentially, because the Ethereum costs are the on-chain costs are so high, you're saying, you know what, I'll go ahead and
wait 7 days. It's basically like clearing. It's you can think of it like as clearing. You know, when you have if you use like a Visa or a credit card, right? Clearing really takes a lot longer than people realize, right? Yeah.
It's processing. When you swipe your card, and you're like, money's there, but it's processing.
Right. And it actually takes a lot longer than people realize. Sometimes banks and everything will make your money available, but there's actually stuff. It actually takes way longer to clear. So, cool. All right.
Yeah, just to interject one more time, there is an actual layer 2 solution on Ethereum right now called Optimism that is focused on optimistic rollups.
Cool.
Yeah. But this,
thus the name. And if
I'm not mistaken, your money you're locked there for 7 to 14 days.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You want to pull it off of the chain. Yeah.
Thus, you got to be optimistic. You'll get your money back.
That's good.
You see, they are really. That's the narrative. You are optimistically trusting everybody in this ecosystem. Kind of you give it there, and then you're kind of we actually believe that nobody is doing something wrong, and we're just to be sure we just have to wait. But if nobody stands up, the thing is, even if there's something happening and something is wrong, if nobody finds it, or if nobody is looking for it, it might happen that it just goes through without stuff. And there's a lot of a lot of chain rollback happening in this stuff. I just saw a Twitter tweet kind of that is in Polygon. They have sometimes reorganizing or reordering of the blockchain of 200 blocks. I just saw a Twitter tweet 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, they have faster block times, but still it's kind of you think, there has 200 blocks have happened, and then there is kind of somebody delivers something and then they can just kind of reorganize all kind of stuff to make it.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thesis here is if it's not built into the protocol by design, then it becomes a never-ending problem to chase. Just like security.
You're putting out fires.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's an extremely good point. I mean, it's they're just working around the problem because they don't want to address it at the place where it should be, which is at the level 1.
And I'll be the first to admit, I've been part of teams, projects, and companies where you've had to do a complete re-architecture and rewrite of the product, right, at enterprise scale, from a monolith to like a distributed cloud app. And it's just, it takes time. You think it'll take a year, it takes 3. But
from what you said, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you bet.
The payoff is exponential.
You saw
in terms of the gain.
I mean, we did it in IOTA. We did a complete reorganization. We did a complete rewrite of the whole protocol from scratch.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and it took us also 3 years.
I was going to make. Yeah, I was going to make that exact same point, which is IOTA has gotten a lot of bad publicity for doing that, but the end result is something that actually is so much better than what it would be if that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were brave enough to take this bitter pill and to, because the vision is long term. It's like, of course, if you only care about what's happening in the next 6 months on your trading view chart, you're not gonna do this. But if you have a vision to be a base layer of the economy of the next 30, 40, 50 years, then what are 1, 2, 3 years reorganizing and optimizing stuff?
So we're going to call the people that have been with IOTA since 2017 layer 0.
people 0.
All right, people 0. Okay, well that's even worse. Okay. All
right.
Let's go to 28. Let's try 2815. This will be quick.
Do we have to add that in addition to the 3D glasses?
You're gonna get a badge for that. You're gonna get
Here I see number 3.
There you go.
In the same.
Ja.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me start. 2015. All right, here we go.
Here I see number 3 in the same line of questions.
So just real quick, the question was, how difficult would it be to integrate Cardano's extended UTXO model?
Yeah. So actually, it would be pretty much straightforward, and actually, we, in a sense, we're doing this. However, we do not see it as a scripting like in Bitcoin or Cardano, because we don't see it as a good mechanism for universal smart contracting. It's for specific reasons. But if you have a specific reasons, you develop them on the layer 1, you put it there into the, because it's every node has to run it anyway, it's layer 1, right? Yeah. So you implement it when you know why you implement, and we implementing it as a UTXO types, so-called. Each type you already mentioned. So there's some kind ordinary type, like so-called extended output, transfer of value. Then there is an alias output, then there is an NFT output, and then there are foundries, which means tokens and so on, so on. All of these are some kind of scripts or state machines which are configurable with all kind of data. It's kind of in between traditional UTXO and the what is called the scripting, full scripting like on Cardano stuff. So this is our approach.
Don't give away too much yet for the for the new specs.
Okay, Dave, that was it right there.
Yeah,
I gotta love Evaldus. So I think that was pretty self-explanatory. There's been a lot of people talking, and even Hans has blogged about this, or he was either on his blog or on Twitter, where he was having a tweet storm about how he likes some of the elements of Cardano here, right?
The issue, I mean, there's a bit of the thing is, Cardano can do this because Cardano charges fees for smart contracts execution on level 1, and so the fees are normally related to how difficult or how much code is processed there, yeah, and so. In Cardano, the more code you put into such an ETXU smart contract script, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
If you would want to have the same thing on IOTA without fees, people could start spamming those scripts with immense amount of useless computation data, and this would just not make sense. So there's a reason why. There is one reason why you cannot allow this totally the same thing that Cardano is doing on IOTA. But okay, that is already, we'll have to wait. I mean, Dave, you saw the specs and the things, and Evaldus. But there is, we cannot allow everything, but we can allow a few very, very cool things on level 1 in certain limits that are okay for the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I think it's a good compromise between extended functionality and not sacrificing speed or an attack vector.
Yeah, right. You don't want to give them the ability to DDoS us essentially, so just bombard us. Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right.
Could I ask one question real quick? Just
make it easy.
It might be a hard question for you, Philo, and you might not be able to answer it, and that's okay. Will permissionless smart contracts come before layer 1 smart contracts, or are those wrapped together?
Difficult.
Let's see a wordsmith this one.
Difficult to answer. No ATAs. That's I have to stick with this narrative kind of.
I guess I mean more like, are they methodologically combined in this instance, or is there an idea without layer 1 smart contracts for a permissionless smart contract environment? If you can't answer that, that's totally okay too.
I would say that they feel very similar.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the base important thing is the tokenization on level 1. This is to make anything smart contract related happening on the mainnet. You need this new output types on mainnet that they will enable everything else. Permissionless, all stuff, but kind of this has to be rolled out on mainnet to make the whole ISP running on mainnet possible, and then ISP is the opportunities are then everywhere.
Okay, so you guys, I have like 5 more. I think this is kind of getting long. I got one that talks about oracles. And I'll just kind of paraphrase. Dave just said that, hey, oracles are important. We're working on them. But I think we'll just leave that out. You guys, if you guys want to look at that, look at the Ameri channel, and it's at 32 minutes. But and I'm going to skip the next one on ledger requests. But I want us to dive into Dave. Let's go to 43 because that's talking about MEV, and that's an important thing.
4300.
Yeah.
Okay.
The miners compete which block will win because of proof of work and this stuff. So you can include whatever you want, and then you analyze the incoming stream of other transactions and take advantage of it.
Excuse me. You know what? Did I say 40? No, we're good. Sorry. Excuse me.
What?
We're good.
You said 4300.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Then you analyze the incoming stream of other transactions and take advantage of it. The miner, it's so-called sandwiching, when you put before transaction, after all, or front running. You do something on the asset which someone posts some sell by, so you do before something, taking advantage of it. So yeah, it's I think. For me, it seems it's an inherent problem of the proof of work blockchains, of the permissionless setup and the structure of the consensus. We made some provisions to eliminate or prevent, let's say, this problem specifically, because the smart contract chain, IOTA smart contract chain, is validated by the some finite set of the miners. They could do something like that, right? But it's not, because actually they are coming on consensus, not on the block, but actually they are coming on consensus on the input batch. And after they coming on consensus, they run batch, and nobody can influence the, because it's a consensus. And it means that at least in this form, the miner extractable value is prevented. Besides, we sort it randomly, the batch. No one batch and the order. So it eliminates at least this part of the miner extractable value.
Yeah. No.
Continue, or is that it?
No, let's go to.
I mean, that's a really important point, because And so those other networks is the users versus the validators, right? They're sort of like in competition as well. And we need to secure both, right? And provide incentives for both.
Okay.
Next question.
Yeah, you can kill it, actually. You can kill it. So the MEV question, right, is basically the miners get problems to solve, right? Equations to solve. And the ones that pay the most, you can basically, they can rearrange the order, right? And they'll basically pick the ones that are, they'll reorder the stack in order for them to basically work on the ones that are the most lucrative, right? And that's a scenario that won't exist with IOTA, and it's a big thing because that happens. Jumping the line is what happens, right? And that's a big problem with Ethereum, right?
And I think with front running, you could even have the visibility into the transactions.
Yes.
You could even execute something, whatever, if there's a financial, whatever, hedge or whatever, right? You could benefit from it because you are processing the transaction and you could insert something in front of that.
You could actually crush something that was happening before, theoretically should have happened before, right? It could actually just cause a lot of damage. So it's pretty important. It's a problem that everybody tries to solve out there, but we've architecturally solved it. So it's not even, it is something that will be another reason why people, once they realize that we don't have this issue, once they get involved with it, just another key advantage to people on other ecosystems or other chains. Okay. How are you guys holding out? Do you guys want to keep going? I got two or three. Okay. Let's talk about, let's go to 4728. We're going to talk about committees and validators.
The committee itself can also be variable in size, from a few nodes up to hundreds of nodes. And each node can be part of many different committees. First question, a committee cannot have thousands of nodes. That's the question.
Yeah, there's a limit to the amount of nodes that can talk to one another and form a consensus because of how much they communicate with one another and how much they will have to communicate. And this gets more complex the more nodes you add exponentially.
Yep.
So that's why there's a limit to the amount of validators you can have at the same time. Maybe Evaldus can talk a bit more about this. He's a bit more in depth about this stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, actually, we are in the realm of so-called Byzantine fault-tolerant consensuses. So this is a consensus used everywhere in Rollups layer 2, in Binance Smart Chain, in Polkadot, in many. So actually, the very key fact here that you have some kind, by the very nature of it, of the consensus, you don't have thousands of nodes. Right. Probably, and also if you have more, you have always a penalty on that, because if you look at if there is one person in the room, it's very easy to get to consensus because there is only one. When two, it's all more or less possible quick. But if you have 100 persons in a room, you will have a lot of time to waste to come to consensus on it. So this is a basic reasoning. Actually, talking about the BFT consensuses, and we use in Honey Badger, I would say it's a kind of 30-50. It's probably the practical range, but we actually never did benchmarking at the higher end. And of course, and also we have to take into account, because this field it's very old, but it's very complicated, and it's advancing. So we are not, the protocol itself is actually more or less agnostic about the consensus.
Right.
Yeah, so we will progress with advances, progress in this field too. So we will see. And also finishing. So actually, the security stuff is not about the number of validators, but actually what they do and who they are.
Right.
This is a more important stuff. So this is the answer. So short answer, 1,000 is probably not possible with this kind of consensus.
And I mean, the consensus is stuff that has been resolved and has been solved, right? So to say, has been researched over the last few decades. And as I mentioned, we can always replace it in one way or another.
Yeah, that as well. But also, like Evaldus said, the security is not based on the amount of validators, but more at what is at stake for them. Yeah. So if you have 1,000 validators that all only have one IOTA, that has less of a security than if you have 30 validators that all have 1 giga IOTA, for example.
Right.
So that you have to take into account as well. And you can also come up with more creative solutions, which a lot of other protocols are doing. Like, for example, delegating a stake of your tokens to a certain validator so that you stand behind that validator with your stake and they represent you while not having to be a validator yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, right there.
The next.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There are some good nuggets right there. I think Dave's last assessment there, Evaldus is he said it, but to paraphrase Dave, he basically said, "Hey, it's really the quality and how much you're invested, right? That basically is what's important with the validators there, and it clearly is true what he said. So that's some pretty good knowledge there. You have an insight on that, Dave? You were thinking that made sense, right?
Yeah, I mean it's exactly the case. Whereas and I think to their point, it's still being studied, and I can see where this is the best at the time, but they also recognize that it's got to advance, and so. When thinking about how the IOTA smart contracts are currently, I think for me, it's looking at it going like, there's some ability to grow a lot more robust in the selecting the validators and how all that works. And I would definitely expect that in the future releases to become more, become expanded with some better tools to manage that.
So that'd be interesting. So what he basically was saying at the end there was, staking was maybe one way to make validators, stronger, I guess, for lack of a better term. Also, I think pledging. You might be able to pledge something or staking in a way, right? So the notion of reputation could play a role here. Because that's what we're talking about, really, is the reputation of the validators within the committees, and how are those represented, and how would a reputation be presented? So, and how could you pledge your reputation against that? So it actually introduces some interesting concepts that I have a lot of thoughts around. Okay, so anybody else have any comments on validators and committees? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So you kind of talked about this being the best mechanism that we use, I guess, currently today, but that could change. How would you say, or how would you rate or describe the decoupled or decomposability of IOTA compared to other solutions out there in terms of being able to upgrade components if there's a better consensus or if there's a better asynchronous, solution? Than what we currently design.
I'll give you my what I think the answer will be, and then Holger will probably fix my statement. But I think that have designed this whole rev of Trustless has been from consensus. Everything has been designed to be able to do from a modular type perspective. So if there's something else out there that does something better, quicker, faster, stronger. we're not proud. We're practical, right? We can actually just plug the new stuff in. There's going to be some elements of code changes to do that, but I think like the example that I think is the way that Hans talks about how we are moving, from FPC to on-tangle voting, and people we're losing everything over. Oh, it's going to take forever. We got to worry about all this research and all this stuff. No, this is by design. This was done in such a way so that this stuff can happen, and in the pursuit of always building a better solution, right? Building modularity, building your code in such a way that you can actually do this kind of stuff without have to re-architect the the aircraft where you're flying it is really there. So.
Let me, if I can give a different analogy. So like I totally get that, and that makes complete sense. But if can we think about it like playing darts, right? And there's 3 different rings. There's the outside ring, the middle ring, and then kind of like the inner core ring. How far does that extend as it relates to IOTA, right? Is it a complete protocol and everything, or is it more of like the outside shell, so to speak?
I think what Evaldus, especially what they are here talking about, is the consensus in the chains. Yeah. So that's what in the moment is used is the honey badger, Byzantine fault tolerance thing, and the consensus of a chain is defined in one of the core contracts when you spin up a chain. Yeah. So there are several predefined contracts that Eric already showed a few of them. You have a governance contract, and you have kind of a minting contract, and you have a contract that regulates how validators get added and stuff like this. And those contracts, or those parameters in those contracts, can be changed and updated by, or depending on how it is set up, by the chain owner, or by let's say a consensus decision of all validators. And if there is one day, so this is kind of the predefined consensus for ISAP. In the moment is this honey badger. But actually, you could already, I don't know if it's really, but you could already try to implement a different consensus mechanism in your own chain if you program it that way. But of course, the whole protocol, the whole ISAP, the other things are suited and tailored to this way of consensus. But if there is one day a better consensus mechanism coming up that is providing better features, it could be upgraded in a chain itself by the decision of those that run the chains. Yeah? And that's an interesting thing. It's like with all the parameters, you can decide on fees, you can change fees, you can decide different other chain parameters, and also the consensus is not it's not a hard-coded thing that is unchangeable. The protocol of consensus can also be upgraded by those that run the chain.
Well, cool. So I was kind of wrong.
Yeah, it depends where you see it. I think here they're not talking about the Tangle consensus. Yeah, they're talking about the ISAP.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And
well, plus because it's in layer 2, it is far more changeable, because then you're just dealing with the smart contract nodes arriving at consensus versus talking about the IOTA nodes arriving at consensus.
That's the thing.
So it is far more easy to make those changes at that level, layer 2, than at the layer 1.
And regarding to your dartboard, it's like, okay, the outer rings, which is kind of ISAP chains, they are very, very flexible and very, very configurable to the needs of those that spin up those chains. Yeah, but like the core of the IOTA protocol, which is the Tangle, is of course a different thing. Yeah, it's also possible. This is also what Hans said. But it's a much more complicated, complex thing than changing parameters in ISAP chain. Changing the consensus in an ISAP chain is also not something easy to do. I very much believe that's gonna be, you kind of have to halt the chain and then whatever, spin up some new code, or stuff, or you can you move everything to a different chain with a different consensus, but it's kind of envisioned that this is possible.
That was great. Thanks for the response.
Cool. Thanks for fixing me. Moving on. There were a couple other ones, you guys. I'll just say that I had something that talked about WASM and being viewable. So what's interesting is WASM doesn't make, at this point, it sounds like the code from WASM doesn't let you see the source. And that's not cool, right, with smart contracts. So I think they're working on that. So I think that was some of the objections that people had or concerns, and they're working on ways to make that available. So that's just a temporary situation. And then the last one that I had was just talking about validators. And this is a 3-minute segment, but it was Dave. I think it's kind of important. So I say we go for it. It's 102.
The committee members, do they just have to trust them?
Yeah. So at this point with ICP, we solve the core logic of providing smart contracts on top of IOTA, and we don't provide the logic yet for the whole security, basically the economic security of the chains. So basically what it comes down to now at this current stage is that you will have to trust the verifiers of the committee where you're executing your smart contract on. And at a later point in time, when we're looking at this now with the research department to come up with a solution for getting some kind of dynamic validators so that you don't have to trust this anymore per se, that you can maybe have an overview of the amount of value at stake before something goes wrong. And
Right. And I mean, this is really where the permissionless version comes into play, right? The validator selection. And one of the exciting parts is that you can definitely do things like trust scores, right? And you can also see all the actions of the validators in the past, and if they have misbehaved, if they were not really reliable, that information is also verifiable and is visible.
Yeah. Also, question I a little bit understood a little differently. That about do we have a auditable trace of what's happening on the chain? So yes, we have everything which is needed, but it's more of a result of the consensus of the validators on the committee, because they provide a signature together. So it's a proof of the consensus, but not of individual one.
Yeah.
I mean, you have all inputs, all requests, everything. So you can check if you want to, and compare, yeah.
And I mean, this is really where you as a DeFi builder should not worry about these things, because this is what the protocol should take care of, right? If there's a committee members that went offline, the protocol should take care of replacing that committee member. If one is is misbehaving, they should be punished, right? And this is what the network takes care of. And I think like this is maybe also an important message for all the builders out there. Like, the exciting part about IOTA smart contracts is that it gives you this flexibility. So you can define the parameters of your own smart contract chain. But the network or the protocol is also meant to take care of some of these really important security functions, so that you don't have to worry about, how do I actually select and replace committee members right now? This is being taken care of. So the objective is that you have the similar experience as in Ethereum, right? You deploy your smart contract and you spin up your nodes, and then you deploy your smart contract, and you have the address, you interact with it, you integrate it into your dApp. And if you want to be more fancy, you can set up your own smart contract chain. But the important security stuff and the incentives and all of that will be taken care of.
No, it's all about flexibility. Either if your own permission chain, and you can also say, I trust. I'm a consortium of certain manufacturers of certain products. I want to work together with my competitors, but not trust each other individually. So you can set up nodes amongst yourselves and then have like a private chain which is anchored to the IOTA tangle. That works. And if you want something like DeFi, then you don't trust anyone, and you can set something up which is like the dynamic committee, which we're researching. And I think it's super powerful that both can be combined as well. So that private chain can actually communicate as well with the public chain if it needs to. And that opens up a whole lot of additional new use cases, even in the DeFi space.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can end it there, Dave. So for me, takeaways are the importance of trust scores will be coming to light, right? So how do we evaluate people that need to verify, right? So that's trust scores. I think are going to be something that we're going to be hearing more and more about, and how are those trust scores developed, and how are they represented, and how can you start representing these trust scores when you're trying to evaluate validators and so forth. And the other thing I find, which was pretty cool, is we're talking about the different types of committees, and one is the private, what I would call private trusted committees, and then ones that are assigned dynamically, where you just have no idea, and which are more appropriate for validators, for DeFi, for Dexes, and so forth. But the power that I think is really cool is that they're talking about being able to actually hook those two together. So you could have private and public mixed together, if you will. And that can actually offer corporate entities ways to do things where probably they were handcuffed with other chains. Because I believe this is a unique approach. So I think that was kind of notable.
I think as I think about solutions, so many solutions are where you have that component, public and private, or even shared. So like you would have a chain between two businesses that was private between only those two. Mm-hmm. And then you would connect that to events or something that was actually more public. So you'd have like I think in Dave's example, you'd have like 4 different companies, and each company has their own private intermediary chain or chains. And then they choose when things become public based on, smart contract logic and what the solution is, what it needs to do. And so that gives you power then to design things exactly how you need to, but then separate the information so that you don't have competitive information and other, price or whatever it is that's shared outside to other parties that you don't want it to be. So
it's essentially the same decisions that you make when you're trying to run the operations for a corporate entity, right? How much intranet versus extranet versus, right? Separating the company jewels from and protecting them, but then also having connectivity to the outside world and talking to the cloud and those kinds of things. It's really the same type of thing.
It's also a lot of this about this breaking of the silos, this data silos and this trust silos. You have it in all other. You have companies and you have 10, 12 different solutions that do the same thing. But if you have an app that is working in whatever in this supermarket, you cannot use the functionality to do something, and because they all don't trust each other. And that's, of course, there are reasons for this, businesses or even also governance. Yeah, like if you have a government that would run public services on a smart contract, very, very likely they are not gonna do this on a total permissionless chain like Ethereum. This is what we see. This is like, of course, governance want to have control over some functionalities. But if they do it like with Hyperledger or all the things, there is no connection between their system and a trustless and a permissionless blockchain system out there. And IOTA can deliver this. Yeah, you can have parts of computation or of executions of smart contracts that are crucial and critical for a business or for a government, and they want to have under their belt. and still be able to connect with the whole rest of free, open source, and trustless, permissionless ecosystem that is out there in the rest of IOTA. So, like,
you have
the free and the flexibility to choose which part of your business, of which part of your things you trust only yourself or your partners or your business entities or your consortium, and still be able to interact with all the rest of the system over the Tangle, over level 1, and just connect with other chains, and still you can just do this, and you're not bound, you're not fixed in one solution forever.
Absolutely. That's
in a lot of ways, ACLs like access control lists and policies and procedures, information control that are really well defined in corporate entities, right? They've spent years building these things, maintaining them. They're based upon regulatory environment, HR environment, or business conditions, right? NDA type situations, right? All that kind of built into their systems, and that couldn't be realized to be able to complement those systems that are in place right now with the other architectures, or the other chains to this point. But now we can adapt to those and actually fit the already existing business requirements that are out there.
Are you saying that this is as flexible to solve like identity, privilege, and access management for all business silos across all business functions? It has. I mean, it's
when you start talking, the answer is when you throw in DID and SSI.
Yeah.
The components are there to do that. You kind of look like an Okta.
Sure.
You look like Microsoft flavor.
It's not just Okta. It would be Okta, HR, marketing, sales, like all of it, and then.
Oh yeah, no doubt. The components are there for you to build that from an open source solution, right? So that's what's so cool about it. Yeah. So
one question
I actually do see that. Yeah.
What are the teams, I guess, or any perspectives on kind of the enterprise IT space? I'm thinking data lakes. I'm thinking moments in time and auditability of a what's called full stack observability, and or actually piecing together edge, cloud, core, network, storage.
I would say that would all be doable, but I'm not sure that's where the low hanging fruit is right now for adoption. Those are long-term plays, and so what we need to do is pursue making sure that we're layer 1, layer 2. All of the smart contracts know how to do this in permission and permissionless way. Wait till all that's kind of like solid before we start spending the type of resources it requires to penetrate those type of discussions, because that's been my career, and we ain't ready.
Fair.
We ain't ready.
Unless you have the resources, to do that, in which case I can certainly see that's that's very.
I'm not discouraging people, but it's just not going to be something.
I'm particularly intrigued with Alvarium. I'm close to it in terms of a market space. I understand its value. I think
I would say if I could talk to you for days on this. So just DM me, and then we'll take you there, because that's where I made my living. So
don't take up too much of Greg's time, though. There's other draws on that.
That's fair. I play to win, so hopefully.
All right, there you go. That's what I hear. I want winners. Okay, cool. All right. Hey, we talked about talking about governance. I think I'm gonna say, this worked out okay. I'm actually thought it worked out pretty well. Thank you for everybody.
It's a very good format. Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, it was.
We drive into different whatever discussions, and I think it was really actually turned out really, really good. Yeah, so I liked it a lot.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
the level of which we actually dug into some areas because you can see how fast Dave goes through some of those sections, and then being able to kind of take a section and then just talk about it and dive in deeper. That was actually incredible. I learned stuff that I didn't even know after watching the whole thing. So that was really great.
I was actually, it was either going to be an epic fail or it kind of worked. Yeah, kind of worked.
And I think also the thing is, in my mind, I know a lot of people now that actually watch the recordings of this. Mm-hmm. They should actually show up directly in my mind, yeah. But I think Discord is in some ways a bit of a hurdle. But I think it's also like everybody who is here, right? In terms of the length, I understand now for Ben and so on, it's getting a bit late, yeah, obviously. But we can also say, look, people can jump off, right? If this is running long, then they can just go to bed and watch it later in the recording. Yeah? So because I think this is really valuable stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't need sleep. I have IOTA.
That keeps you up at night. Hey, where is it today? Where's the price? Exactly. So I'm just kind of wondering, should we start charging smart contract fees to the folks overseas because they don't let us watch their meetings? Just having fun, guys. Having fun.
Oh man!
What stays here? What stays in Germany stays in Germany. Right? The Vegas thing. Yes.
You mean the German Stammtisch or what?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just can't say that word. That's. Can't say that word.
There's a reason.
Learn German.
There's a reason why they never record anything because, like, Hans is leaking there.
I just gotta watch the Hans interviews, and you're golden.
Yeah, well, maybe we get Hans on the Americas. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, would that be huge? All right.
I mean, I can tell you this. I can tell you this. He's up. Like last Monday was it? Yeah. It was like 3 a.m. for them, right? So I said, "Hey guys, go to bed now, right?" And I have to eat dinner.
The later, the better, because that's really for sometimes me in the morning when I join and the Stammtisch is still alive and I hear Hans talking, I just connect another hour and just listen because then there's only like 5 or 6 people still awake. But then when Hans starts. Gets into the mood and then that's pretty
I'll say it this way, when you love what you do, it no longer becomes work.
It
becomes fun.
Yes.
Okay, well
maybe
Philo,
could I get maybe 2 minutes because I wanted to not
you bet. You
wanted to leak something? Is that what you said?
No, but not about the protocol, but about because actually we wanted to talk a bit about DAOs, but I think it's pretty late. But I just wanted to inform everybody that we are planning some cool stuff regarding DAOs and Antonio and I have been working on something because what we see in DAOs, I mean, we see there's an interest in the community. Of course, by myself is a great interest. I do this the last 5-6 months, Dick and also Greg and other people. But DAO's going to be a really, really important part of all the strategy and all the things that are coming up with smart contracts and IOTA. And it's also a really amazing tool of incentivizing our community and engaging with our community. But those are kind of complicated stuff, especially if you're not, if like we are not part of this whole smart contract ecosystem yet. And so what we want to provide is a kind of a way of collective learning what DAOs are all about. And so Antonio and I am gonna offering a 4 to 5 week, we call it a learning circle because it's not a course. It shouldn't be like there's a teacher and you're kind of the school boys. We want to spend 4 or 5 weeks together with community members that are interested in DAOs and interested in the topic and interested in maybe one day being part of a DAO or spinning up their own DAOs in IOTA and explore the whole space from a foundational level, from a theoretical level first, and then go to practical levels. And we have a quite nice document or a couple of documents for this. Actually, we kind of taken an open source thing that just happened a couple of weeks ago in a DAO. They did a similar thing. They did a 4 weeks course with 100 people online with recordings and with very good documentation for this. And what we did is we reshaped this a bit, because they were, of course, also they were focusing on their own framework, and it went all a bit into a little bit selling course it's understandable. But as we are in IOTA, we are super free and flexible, and we are exploring everything at the moment. That we are not fixed in any solution, and so we want to really use this time, give out information to people that are interested. So Antonio and I both gonna be kind of every day 1 hour available in the Discord for a collective learning. We schedule every Friday a big group meeting with presentation about topics, and we have an extensive set of a course of a structured learning material for everybody, and we want to go step by step through all the important topics that are related to DAOs. And and so actually we want to invite everybody that is really interested in this to join us there. It's like but you will of course need a couple of hours per week time, because you will have to, or you should read or listen or watch some YouTube videos and read some articles on this. But we will always offer our time to do this together with you and explore it together with you. We'll have a channel in our Discord where we can use during this learning circle. We can discuss all kind of interesting topics, because there's like a ton of information out there. And what we did is we filtered what we find the most valuable part of it, and we want to provide this to our community and work out to really transfer knowledge about those things. And we hope after this people will be informed enough and also excited enough, like we are, to really want to spin up DAOs, want to take part in DAOs, have great ideas of what we can do. And this is something we are really looking forward to start in the beginning of November. And so
so I will say that I previewed part of the documentation, and it's amazing. And I know that they worked on it. I think they're working on shaping what I saw already. I'm definitely going to participate in it.
And we will.
DAOs are evolving, right? This is something.
We will do this kind of also for all time, because we are in the Antonio is going to take care a bit of the European time zone, and I'm going to be potentially doing it around this time, in what is morning for me, what is afternoon or evening for the US Americans. And so we'll have this, we try to cover all community members to be able to take part in this. And it's we're gonna send out a Discord information today, and maybe beginning of next week have the session documents for the first 2 weeks ready, and gonna send them out already to the people that want to take part in this. And then just explore what is out there, and really maybe we have a bit longer looked into this and had a bit more time in exploring what is out there, and can transfer some knowledge to people that are feeling they're beginning of it. But it's definitely not like we are the super experts and we want to enforce knowledge on you. It should be a real community driven and collectively engaged a way of talking and discussing and exploring all the possibilities out there. And so if you want to join this, get in touch with me or Antonio, or we're going to do kind of a poll or a clickable poll in Discord later on, where you just can click you want to be part of this, and then we're gonna get to you with more information about that.
This is definitely something that's needed by our community. I mean, DAOs are being talked about every day. DAOs run on smart contracts, where the revolution for IOTA is about to happen. I mean, we're going to start exploding in a lot of different areas. The tools that are being delivered right now, they're going to make that happen, and people are going to start building. And DAOs are the hot topic. They're probably the new LLC, and you can't know enough about this stuff. And it's also something where if anybody says they're a DAO expert, they're not. because it's a continuing learning process, and it's an evolving thing. So I highly encourage you guys to get involved in this. If you think that you want to possibly be involved with a DAO with the organization, with IF or with IOTA, there's going to be so many businesses that come out of this, and all the other ecosystems are adopting and going after DAOs too, right? They all see this as the new way of things. So DAOs tap into the metaverse, by the way. So it's all good to know.
Sounds awesome, man. Yep.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I thank everyone for helping me through this and putting up with my new attempt at running this meeting with YouTube. That was kind of worked out okay. Thank you, Holger, for always helping us out. Dave as well. And then just want to thank everybody for their participation. The more I get from you guys to participate, the easier it makes my life. And finally, I would ask that if anybody wants to help come up with topics or wants to present, for example, something that they're working on, that would be great. There are some people that have just started building small little trainings for building coins or connecting MetaMask to a smart contract and making coins or NFTs. And I think it would be cool to showcase community efforts. Just show it off for 5 minutes, right? We can talk about how it was built and just kind of let us start seeing what's kind of percolating to the surface, because that's how we get the juices flowing. That's how the community, gets all fired up and say, hey, I can do something like that. So that's what this is all intended to do. So
exactly. I mean, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, that's the perfect kind of length of time to show something very, very small. And it's going to help help all of us to understand something that you are passionate about or actually have done some research into and find it interesting. I would certainly want to see that too.
Yeah, and also if you ran into a hurdle, say, look, I got this far and I'm hitting my head against the wall, right? Well, let's crowdsource the issue, right? Let's fix it. We'll find a way. So that's great.
And maybe we have a problem-solving section of this meeting where, if we open it up and say, okay, who has some problems that we'll want to help crowdsource? I think that's a great idea.
Cool. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to call it an evening. I thank everybody for their help, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Yep.
Round of applause. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.